Was that you? Did your hip just go snap, crackle, pop? If you're wondering whether that funky sound from your hip spells doom or if it's just your body's quirky way of saying hello, stick around. We're about to reveal the simple truth behind your rice-krispy hips. Hi, I'm Shane Dowd, your hip's new best friend. And over the last 14 years, I've been on a mission at gotrom.com to help folks like you fix injuries, get flexible, and build athletic bodies that last a lifetime. Now let's talk about something that might be freaking you out a bit. Snapping hip syndrome. I remember when I first experienced snapping hip, it used to happen to me anytime I would do any kind of leg raise core exercise. So why does this happen? What exactly is this snapping business? Imagine your hip is a busy intersection where tendons, muscles, and bones all meet. Sometimes they don't all play very nice together. In other words, they don't glide past each other as smoothly as we'd like, causing that snap or pop you hear. But here's the thing, it's often as harmless as your stomach gurgling. But what is it exactly? Why does it happen? Let's go a little deeper. First of all, snapping hip syndrome, aka dancer's hip or coxa saltans, is recognized as a clinical condition that most commonly happens when your muscles are overused and overtight or tense. But it can also be brought on by trauma and surgical procedures. For example, some people who get surgery for hip impingement or other hip issues actually end up with new snapping, popping, and clicking sounds that weren't there before. It's kind of like playing a game of whack-a-mole. You try to fix one issue, but it just causes a new one to pop up. There are two types of snapping hip, internal and external. External snapping hip is typically caused by the iliotibial band dancing its way over the greater trochanter of your femoral head during various hip movements like flexion, extension, and whether you're rotating your hip externally or internally. But it's not just the iliotibial band pulling the strings here. Other culprits can include things like the proximal hamstring tendon rolling over the ischial tuberosity, the fascia lata or the anterior chunk of the gluteus maximus playing footsie with the greater trochanter, and even the Soaz tendon rolling over the medial fibers of the iliacus muscle. Heck, a cocktail of these things could be at play, like a thickening of both the posterior iliotibial band and anterior gluteus maximus, which gang up to snap over the greater trochanter simultaneously. Internal snapping hip, on the other hand, is commonly seen when the iliopsoas tendon decides to snap over the bony protrusions like the iliopectineal eminence or the anterior part of your femoral head. You also can't rule out causes like a paralabral cyst or a partial or complete split in the iliopsoas tendon. Here's where it gets funky though. The snapping sensations can be a doppelganger for intra-articular pathology given that they both come from the anterior hip area. So it takes a keen eye and a thorough physical exam and imaging to tell the two apart. But here's the good news. Approximately 5 to 10% of the population is affected by the snapping hip, but the majority don't have pain associated with it. The first fear people have, as I used to, is, does a snap mean my hips are damaged? Or I'm going to develop hip arthritis in the future? According to a study by McCoy, these noises are perfectly normal. In fact, a huge percentage of other joints make noises to some extent as well. So why would our hips be any different? Think cracking knees and knuckles and backs and necks. The truth is, there's very little association between these noises and actual pathology in our bodies. Just like you shouldn't freak out when your stomach gurgles or your bottom lets one rip, don't panic when your hip snaps. So when should you worry? Well, if snapping is accompanied by pain or loss of range of motion, that's when it's time to start paying attention. If you're wincing every time you move or can't perform certain movements without discomfort, then it's worth investigating further. Let me share a personal story. Once upon a time, my hips were like a one-man band, snapping, cracking, and popping with every move. Even though at the time I had a lot more going on than just snapping hip, did I freak out? No way. I was diagnosed with snapping hip, femoral acetabular impingement, labral tears, bone cysts, and more. But I saw this as an opportunity to learn about my body and how to keep it functioning smoothly. A skill that I would surely treasure for a lifetime once I developed it. So I started researching, training, experimenting, trying different techniques. Fast forward to today and my hips are buttery smooth. And guess what? Yours can be too. So how do you manage and prevent snapping hips? Here are my top tips. Stay supple and flexible by incorporating targeted tissue work and flexibility exercises into your routine. Don't forget about strength training because strong muscles support healthy joints. And learn to listen to your body. If a certain movement consistently causes a snap, it might be time to modify that movement or seek advice from a professional. And lastly, patience. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time to make changes in your body, so be patient. Remember, your body is unique, and what works for one person may not work for another. The key is to stay curious, keep learning, and never stop experimenting. One quick word of warning about snapping hip. You might have read online about surgeries that promise to fix these weird, mostly harmless sounds that your body makes. But these corrective surgeries for either internal or external snapping hip can result in other complications much worse than the initial noise. For example, permanently weakened hip flexors, damage to the surrounding area, infection, heterotopic ossification, muscle atrophy, continued symptoms, or nerve damage. In fact, I spoke with someone just last week who was applying for our one-on-one VIP mentorship program. They told me they had already had the Soaz release surgery and were very unhappy with the results months later. Hence why they were talking to me trying to get help with their hips. The point is, your Soaz and IT band don't need to be released or lengthened with a scalpel. They need to be massaged, stretched, and strengthened. And don't let any doctor or surgeon scare you into such a surgery before you've tried all the non-surgical options first. The bottom line is this: hopefully we've demystified the phenomenon of snapping hip syndrome and learned that it's usually not a red flag. Remember, a snapping hip sound from your hips is just as normal as a stomach rumble or any other natural body noise. Without pain or movement restrictions, it's nothing to worry about. My advice: keep moving and stay flexible. Incorporate strength and flexibility exercises into your routine to help manage and even prevent the snapping. If you're still concerned, or if your snaps come with pain or limited movement, consider checking out the Hip Fix program on my website. It's packed with targeted exercise to keep those hips in top shape. For those who want more personalized guidance, apply for our premium VIP mentorship at gotrom.com/VIP. And there, we can help you tackle those hip issues together. Lastly, please remember, you're always just one step away from building or rebuilding your perfect body. Does your hip go like this? Did your hip just go? Did your? This is. You hear? You hear? You hear the video guy? He's got snapping hip, and he's not concerned. He's fine. It's that extension. It's that. Questions from the audience. Yes, Chris. Or the anterior part of the femoral head. Blue blugs blood. Blue blah blah blah. The other hand is, or the anterior part. Or it's not a problem. It's just a vanilla wafer, bro.